Omakyanatimandasyam Shanansanam Shanakyan Sakshan Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pacharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskachani Desatarani. Hare Krishna. Today we will discuss chapter 86. Arjuna kidnaps Subhabra and Krishna blesses his devotees. In this chapter we will hear about Arjuna kidnapping Subhabra, and Krishna at the end will visit two of his devotees, a king and a Brahman. So first we will read text 1, which is a question of Maharaj Parikshit. Because he desires to hear the story of Subhabra, who is his grandmother, right? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shirachovacha Brahmam Viditum Ichama Svasaram Rama Krishnayo Yato Payima Vichayo Yamama Sit Pitamahi. King Parikshit said, O Brahman, we like to learn how Arjuna married Lord Balaram's and Lord Krishna's sister, who was my grandmother. Purport. Parikshit Maharaj turns now on the topic of the marriage of Lord Krishna's sister, Subhabra. In the opinion of Srila Sridhar Swami, King Parikshit's question here follows from the previous narration, because Arjuna winning the hand of Subhabra was just as difficult a feat as Lord Krishna's retrieving the sons of Devaki from the realm of the dead, since Lord Balaram himself opposed Subhadra's marriage to Arjuna. So, even if the Supreme Lord is opposed, it still may happen. But Krishna was not opposed. Balaram was against. And Krishna was on his side, and as usual, and he will help him to pacify Balaram. So, can someone read the purport of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which is on the screen?
Which one, Maharaj?
Yeah, maybe Vishalaksha Prabhu, you can read. That's good.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
In the 86th chapter, Arjuna dressed as a sannyasi steals Subhadra. Krishna goes to Mithila to see his devotees, the king and the Brahmana. Seeing signs of the conclusion of the pastimes, Parikshit said, O Master, I have heard about the marriage of Baladeva down to Aniruddha, but did not hear about the marriage of Subhadra. Therefore, he speaks this verse, how did Arjuna marry her? I should ask that because she is my grandmother.
Right. So, it is Maharaj Parikshit family, and he wants to know. Text 2-3. Sukadev Goswami said, while traveling far and wide visiting various holy places of pilgrimage, Arjuna came to Prabhas There he heard that Lord Balaram intended to give his maternal cousin Subhabra to Duryodhana in marriage, and that no one else approved of this plan. Arjuna wanted to marry her himself, so he disguised himself as a renunciant, complete with triple staff, and went to Dwarka. So, why was Arjuna traveling? That Arjuna had to go in the room where Yudhishthira and Draupadi were together to get his bow. When that happened, then they had an agreement that one should travel for 12 years while maintaining a vow of brahmachari, at least from brahmachari from Draupadi, not for other ones. Yudhishthira Maharaj said to Arjuna that he did not need to do that because he understood the urgency of the situation. Because he came in the room to take the bow to help a Brahmin. A deer took away a Brahmin's fire sticks. So Arjuna needed his bow to chase away the deer and save the fire sticks. But Arjuna said to Yudhishthira Maharaj that he would honor the agreement and that he was going for 12 years. In his travels, he got married to 3 more wives. Subhabra, the sister of Balaram and Krishna, Udupi, a Naga, Chitrangana, Manipuri, and during that time he went also to the heavenly planets and got all the celestial weapons. So, Pavitra Prabhu, you can read the purport now if you here.
Arjuna's plan for obtaining Subhadra as his wife may be seen unconventional, but he was not acting without encouragement. In fact, Lord Krishna was the prime co-conspirator, and in Dwaraka, most of the members of the royal family, especially Vasudeva, was unhappy about giving their favorite daughter to Duryodhana.
Thank you. So, Balaram, he liked Duryodhana so much that he wanted to give Subhadra to him. Text 4. 3, text 3, 4, yeah, 4. He stayed there during the monsoon month to fulfill his purpose. Lord Balaram and the other residents of the city, not recognizing him, offered him all honor and hospitality. So Arjuna's purpose was to get married to Subhadra. And Balaram did not recognize that the sannyasi was Arjuna. The system of Tridandi sannyas. The Vaishnava sannyasi vows to serve the Lord with body, mind and words. So 5,000 years ago there was already Tridanta sannyas. Not new. Srila Prabhupada. Sannyasis are generally meant to travel for preaching work. But during the rainy season, from July to October, they take shelter in one place and remain there without moving. This is for the sannyasis called the Chaturmasya Vrat. When the sannyasi stays in one place for 4 months, the local residents take advantage. Arjuna takes on a sannyas dress, but his purpose is different. His purpose is to get married with Subhadra. One day Lord Balaram brought him to his home and as his invited dinner guest, and Arjuna ate the food the Lord respectfully offered him. So purport. From the explanation of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, it is understood that Arjuna in his sannyas role had just finished the 4-month vow of the rainy season and could now again accept general invitations from householders. Thus, no one would have suspected any unusual motive in his visiting Lord Balaram at this time. So text 6. There he saw the wonderful maiden Subhabra, who was enchanting to heroes. His eyes opened wide with delight, and his mind became agitated and absorbed in thoughts of her. Arjuna was very attractive to women, and as soon as Subhabra saw him, she wanted to have him as her husband. Smilingly, bashfully, with sidelong glances, she fixed her heart and eyes upon him. So, can someone read the purport, please?
As soon as she saw him, Subhadra knew that Arjuna was no sannyasi, but rather a destined consort. In Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada elaborates. Arjuna, the grandfather of Maharaj Parishit, was himself extraordinarily beautiful, and his bodily structure was very attractive to Subhadra. Subhadra also decided within her mind that she would accept only Arjuna as her husband. As a simple girl, she was smiling with great pleasure, looking at Arjuna.
So, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Subhabra, seeing Arjuna attractive to all women, confirmed in her mind that he was not a sannyasi, but her lover, by his characteristics, and developed strong desire for him. So Subhabra knew that meditating only on her and waiting for the opportunity to take her away, Arjuna had no peace. His heart trembled with passionate desire. Even while being honored by Lord Balaram, Arjuna was too distracted to appreciate the Lord's gracious hospitality. Arjuna's distraction and Lord Balaram's failure to recognize Arjuna in his disguise were both arrangement of the Supreme Lord to enjoy his transcendental pastimes. Is amazing. That text 9. So, once on the occasion of the great temple festival, in honor of the Supreme Lord, Subhabra rode out of the fortress-like palace on a chariot. And at that time, the mighty chariot warrior Arjuna took the opportunity to kidnap her. Subhadra's parents and Krishna had sanctioned this. So he got permission from Vasudeva and Devaki and from Krishna. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur identifies this festival as the annual Ratha Yatra for Lord Vishnu on the occasion of his rising from mystic sleep at the end of Chaturmasya. Subhadra's parents are Vasudeva and Devaki, of course. Then standing on his chariot, Arjuna took up his bow and drove off the valiant fighters and palace guards who tried to block his way. As a relative shouted in anger, he took Subhadra away just as a lion takes his prey from the midst of lesser animals. When he heard of Subhadra's kidnapping, Lord Balaram became as disturbed as the ocean during the full moon, but Lord Krishna respectfully took hold of his feet and, together with other family members, pacified him by explaining the matter. So we will now first go to Krishna book. Okay, I first get the verse on the screen. the text, I mean Krishna book, chapter 86. Okay. So Lord Krishna was in favor of Arjuna. Therefore, along with other members of the family, he tried to pacify Lord Balaram by falling at his feet and begging him pardon. Arjuna, and begging him pardon Arjuna. Krishna convinced Lord Balaram that Subhabra was attached to Arjuna, and thus Balaram became pleased to know that she wanted Arjuna as her husband. The matter was settled, and to please the newly married couple, Lord Balaram arranged to send a dowry consisting of an abundance of riches, including elephant chariots, horses, menservants, and maidservants. So we must say, fortunately, that she didn't have to marry Duryodhana. That would have been a very horrible thing. So Nectar of Devotion also tells one thing about Subhabra. An example of steady and fixed love for Krishna. So when Arjuna informed Krishna of the death of Arjuna's and Subhadra's son, Abhimanyu, who was killed at the Battle of Kurukshetra by the combined effort of all the Kuru members, Duryodhana's army, Karna, Ashvatthama, Jayadratha, Bhishma, Kripa, and Drauna, in order to assure Krishna that there was no change of love on Subhadra's part, Arjuna informed him, although Abhimanyu was killed in your presence, she was not agitated at all, nor did she slightly change in ritual, in face, in color. Sometimes calamity happens in our lives, but the devotee does not blame Krishna for it, and their love for Krishna does not change. Now that was a kidnapping of Arjuna. We will soon go to Mithila, but we want to hear from Chaitanya Prema Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Pranam, glories to you. Thank you very much for your darshan, your sacrifice, and your in-depth explanation of this topic. I'm saying that time, place, and circumstances, things are adjusted according to time, place, and circumstance. We remember Lord Indra when he wanted to steal, frustrate King Prithu. He disguised as a sannyas and he frustrated King Prithu's anyway for selfish motive. Here, Arjuna is also disguising as a sannyas to go and snatch Subhadra. To what extent can we adjust our dressing codes according to time, place, and circumstance? Like preachers also do this. Sometimes to meet certain great personalities, they have to dress in a particular way to meet him. So to what extent can we go in applying this diplomacy of dressing according to time, place, and circumstance as preachers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, he would go out on book distribution and he would be dressed civil dress, and he would have a wig on his head, some false hair. So according to time, place, and circumstances, he tried to find ways most favorable to distribute the books. But it is in Krishna's service that it's always connected to Krishna's service. And yes, Arjuna he felt attracted to Subhabra, but he was always asking first, yes, the favor of Krishna. He asked Krishna, should I do it? And Krishna said yes. Subhabra, because he knew Subhabra desires to have Arjuna. And because Krishna said yes, he took it as his service to Krishna to do it. So always in the service of Krishna. That is a principle we can accept. At the same time, we should not try to imitate Arjuna. That will not happen. So no imitation of these great personalities, that would lead to our destruction. But this principle of having it in the service of Krishna always, that's important. Yeah. Does that help, Chaitanya Premako?
Yes, Maharaj, thank you very much.
Okay, then we go to the next pastime, and we will again share the screen, and we go to Mithila. 12. Lord Balaram then happily sent the bride and groom very valuable wedding gifts, consisting of elephant chariots, horses, and male-female servants. And then 13. Sukadev Goswami continued, there was a devotee of Krishna's known as Shutadev, who was a first-class Brahmin. Perfectly satisfied by rendering unalloyed devotional service to Krishna, he was peaceful, learned, and free from sense gratification. Vishwanath Chakravarti said, here Sukadev tells a special story that he spontaneously recollected without being asked, which he personally witnessed. The Brahman was a devotee of Krishna, who took Krishna as his master, Krishnasya. So this pastime is very special because Krishna is going to reciprocate with his devotees. These two devotees are living in Mithila, and for their own reasons they could not leave Mithila to see Krishna in Dwarka, and Krishna will come to them to be with them. It's a beautiful reciprocation. You see, Sudama, he went to Dwarka, but here Krishna goes to his devotee. Living as a religious householder in the city of Mithila, within the kingdom of Vihe, he managed to fulfill his obligations while maintaining himself with whatever sustenance easily came to him. So Mithila is the place where Balaram went to teach Duryodhana. Mithila must be a special place because few devotees are living there. This one is the Brahman Shutadev, and Shutadev was a Brahman, and he just got what he needed, nothing else. 15. By the will of Providence, he obtained each day just what he needed for his maintenance and no more. Satisfied with this much, he properly executed his religious duties. Can someone read the purport, please?
The ideal Vaishnava Brahmana, even if encumbered by the ties of the family life, should work only as hard as required to meet his obligations, without being unnecessarily agitated for material advancement. He should devote the best part of the life and best part of his time and assets to his higher duties in the Supreme Lord's service. If the householder can succeed in this program, despite the unavoidable difficulties of this degraded age, he can expect Lord Krishna's personal attention, as will be seen in the case of Shrutadev, the perfect Brahmana of Mithila.
Thank you. So that's an important instruction for all of us. Krishna puts us in a certain situation, or we have created the situation by our previous karma. But it is still Krishna who puts us in that situation according to our previous karma. And this is what Krishna wants us to experience according to our previous karma. A devotee is satisfied with it. Krishna wants me in that position, right? And I will try to serve him from that position. And so that gives accepting that gives satisfaction to the mind. Manasa pranasha, satisfaction of the mind means feeling satisfied with what you get. That gives peace. And Shrutadev was very happy. He just got what he needed. That 16. So when we can live our lives like this, we can get Krishna's special mercy. We may even get Krishna's darshan, as the Brahmin did. Similarly, free from false ego was the ruler of that kingdom, my dear Parikshit, a descendant of the Mithila dynasty named Bahulasva. Both these devotees were very dear to Achyuta. So, what do we know about Bahulasva? We will hear that pleased with both of them, the Supreme Personality of God had mounted his chariot with Daruka, that which Daruka had brought, and travelled to Vihe with a group of sages. So Krishna decided to visit them. He left Dwarka, Daruka prepared his chariot, and many sages, we will hear about these sages, Narada Muni of course, and many others, so that was 17, yeah. So that in his commentary on this verse, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti states that Shrutadev and Bahulasva were unable to travel to Dwarka to see Lord Krishna because both of them had vowed to regularly worship their personal deity at home. So they became pujaris and they had a very strict worship from the morning till the evening, so many offerings, so many pujas, and they had kshetra sanyas, they didn't leave that. So they were unable to travel because they could not leave their deity, because the deity is non-different from Krishna. So there was no need for them to see Krishna in Dwarka. So both of them vowed to regularly worship their personal deity at home. Sri Krishna was very glad to go out of his way to give them both his audience. And while leaving Dwarka, he insisted that the sages who wanted to come with him should join him on his chariot. because otherwise they would exhaust themselves following on foot. Renowned sages would ordinarily never ever consider traveling in such an opulent conveyance, but on the Lord's order they put aside their natural aversion and joined on his chariot. So, of course, we know also Bhaktivedanta Sarasvati Maharaj was preaching with cars, motorboats, and that was not always appreciated by people. Some discourage also Srila Prabhupada not to go to America because a sannyasi is not supposed to cross the ocean. So, yeah. That, 18. Among these sages were Narada, Vamadev, Atri, Krishna, Dvaipayajana, Vyas, Parasuram, Ashita, Aruni, myself, Brihaspati, Kamva, Maitreya, and Shyavana. That 19. In every city and town the Lord passed along the way. O king, the people came forward to worship him with offerings of arghya water in their hands, as if to worship the risen sun surrounded by planets. Purport. Here the sages traveling with Krishna on his chariot are likened to planets around the sun. Yeah, it's like in Mayapur, the elephant procession. Elephant stops regularly because the devotees come out their house and offering and prepared different offerings for the Lord they offered. So Krishna was traveling here and received offerings of arghya water in their hands, and so on. 20. The men and women of Anartha, Damva, Kuru, Jangala, Kanka, Matsya, Panchal, Kunti, Madhu, Kekaya, Kosala, Arna, and many other kingdoms drank with their eyes the nectarian beauty of Lord Krishna's lotus-like face, which was graced with generous smiles and affectionate glances. 21. Simply by glancing at those who came to see him, Lord Krishna, the spiritual master of the three worlds, delivered them from the blindness of materialism and thus endowed them with fearlessness and divine vision. He heard demigods and men singing his glories, which purify the entire universe and destroy all misfortune. So the demigods were also following with the sages. Someone can read the purport, please, which is on the screen.
Srila Jiva Goswami raises the logical question of how the ordinary people along the path could even see the Lord, since not only were their eyes covered by ignorance, but the Lord's chariot was traveling faster than the wind. Supplying the answer, Jiva indicated that the Lord Krishna's special class of mercy empowered every one of them with the devotional purity required for entering into his association. Otherwise, he would have remained outside the scope of their power to see. He himself stated in his instruction to Uddhava, Bhaktyam Eka Graha. I can be perceived only by devotion. Srimad Bhagavad 11:14-21. By grammatical rule of compound formation known as Eka Sisa, the term Sata Vikshana Vinista Tama Istra Dragaya. Although in this primary sense is reflected as a masculine noun, may be understood in this context as referring to the both men and women.
So everyone got Krishna Prema and everyone got purified when they saw the Lord as he was going. Hearing that Lord Achyuta had arrived, O king, the residents of the cities and villages of Vihe joyfully came forth to receive him with offerings in their hands. So they went out of the city to meet Krishna. 23. As soon as the people saw Lord Uttamasloka, their faces and hearts blossomed with affection, joining their palms above their heads. They bowed down to the Lord and to the sages accompanying him, whom they had previously only heard about. Imagine, we have heard about all these sages, and then they appear all together, and the sages are in front of our eyes. Amazing. Both the king of Mithila and Shrutadev fell at the Lord's lotus feet, each thinking that the spiritual master of the universe had come there just to show him mercy. They both thought, he comes for me. He came for me. At exactly the same time, King Mithila and Shrutadev each went forward with joined palms and invited the Lord of the Daksharas to be his guest along with the Brahmin sages. So here we hear about Krishna's mystic power. Wanting to please them both, the Lord accepted their invitations. Thus he simultaneously went to both homes, and neither could see him entering the other's house. So Krishna went simultaneously to both their houses. So can someone read the purport which is on the screen?
According to Untitled Chapter, Krishna visited Shrutadeva and Bahulaswar at the same time by manifesting himself in duplicate forms along with the sages. Thus, King Bahulaswar thought that Lord Krishna had come only to his house, leaving Shrutadeva to return home disappointed, while Shrutadeva believes that just the reverse was the case. In Krishna, Srila Prabhupada remarks that Lord Krishna and his companions were present in both houses, although both the Brahmanas and the kings thought he was present in his house only. It's another opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This opulence is described in the revealed scriptures as Bprs. Similarly, when Lord Krishna married 16,000 wives, he also expanded himself into 16,000 forms, each one of them as powerful as he himself. Similarly, in Vrindavan, when Brahma stole away Krishna's cows, calves, and cowherd boys, Krishna expanded himself into many new cows, calves, and cowherd boys.
Thank you. Text where? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purport. Understanding that both Shrutadev and Bahulasya wanted him to come to their houses, he expanded himself and the sages into two forms and entered both houses without the other person seeing it. The king thought, merciful Krishna has accepted my invitation and is coming to my house, and Shrutadev is going home alone. And Shrutadev thought, Krishna is accepting my invitation and the king is going home alone. So they also had developed two forms, one joyful with Krishna and one despondent without Krishna. The neighbors of the king who was with Krishna, on going to Shrutadev's house, saw him there alone and despondent without Krishna. And the assistant of Shrutadev who were with Krishna, going to the king's house, saw him there alone and despondent without Krishna. Interesting. That's mystic power. When King Bahulasva, a descendant of Janak, saw Lord Krishna approaching his house from a distance with the sages, who were somewhat fatigued from the journey, he immediately arranged to have seats of honor brought out for them. After they were comfortably seated, the wise king, his heart overflowing with joy and his eyes clouded by tears, bowed down to them and washed their feet with intense devotion. Taking the wash water, which could purify the entire world, he sprinkled it on his head and the heads of his family members. Then he worshipped all those great lords by offering them fragrant sandalwood paste, flower garlands, fine clothing and ornaments, incense, lamps, arjuna, and cows and bulls. So can someone read Srila Prabhupada's comments, the purport?
Srila Prabhupada comments, Bahulasya, the king of Vihe, was very intelligent and was a perfect gentleman. He was astonished that so many great sages, along with the Supreme Person of Godhead, were personally present in his home. He knew perfect well that conditioned souls engaged in worldly affairs cannot be 100% pure, whereas the Supreme Person of Godhead and his pure devotees are always transcendental to worldly contaminations. Therefore, when he found that the Supreme Person of Godhead, Krishna, and all the great sages were at his home, he was astonished, and he began to thank Lord Krishna for his causeless mercy.
Yeah, and the last paragraph.
The word Ishvara in this verse refers to only to the Supreme Lord, but also to the exalted sages in his company. This is confirmed by Acharya Sridhar Swami and Vishwanatha Chakravarti.
Yes. Now, Nectar of Devotion describes a scene. One more detail about the king. When he saw Krishna, he decided to offer his respects to him at least 100 times. But he was so overcome by feelings of love that after bowing down only once he forgot his position and could not rise again. So when you get in the presence of great sages such as Srila Prabhupada, you may get stunned and forget what you are supposed to do. So we know also that Krishna was eating the banana peels offered by the wife of Vidura. She was, wife of Vidura, forgot what she had to do, and she offered the peels instead of the bananas. 30. When they had eaten to their full satisfaction, for their further pleasure, the king began to speak slowly and in a gentle voice as he held Lord Vishnu's feet in his lap and happily massaged them. That's while they were eating, Krishna didn't talk. 31. Shri Bahulasva said, O Almighty Lord, you are the soul of all created beings, their self-illumined witness, and now you are giving your audience to us who constantly meditate on your lotus feet. Can someone read the purport, please?
In a version that Chakravarti Thakur explains, Balasura inner thoughts as follows. Balasura glorified Lord Krishna as the inspiring soul of all life and consciousness, thinking that even an inert duller like himself could be awakened to devotional awareness by His mercy. He glorified the Lord as the witness of all pious and impious action, confident that the Lord remembered whatever little devotional service he has ever done, and he glorifies him as self-illuminated, never needed to be enlightened or informed by an external source, with the knowledge that the Lord has always been aware of Balasava, uh, a long cherished secret desire to see him.
Thank you very much. King Baulasma made a vow to do deity worship, and therefore he could not go to Dwarka to see Krishna. Therefore Krishna, he came to him. Vishwanath. O Supreme Atma, you are the producer of all consciousness, therefore by mercy make me an unconscious object conscious, and make me your devotee, O witness Sakshi. As you see all good and bad activities, you see the devotional actions I have performed for you daily. You see all, Svadrik, so there is no need to inform you of anything. Therefore, Atta, I can get your audience only if you yourself come by your free will. I am not fortunate to be able to come and see you, since it is impossible for me giving up for a second serving your deity in my house, always thinking of you, Smartam. In this way, you have come here. 32. You said neither Ananta goddess Sri nor unborn Brahma is dearer to me than my unalloyed devotee. To prove your own words true, you have now revealed yourself to your eyes. So can someone read the purport of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on the screen?
As you yourself say that your brother Balaram, Ananta, your wife Sri, and your son Brahma are not as dear to as your unalloyed devotee. By coming from Dwarka so far away, with no other purpose than to show yourself to me, my doubt as to whether I am truly your unconditional devotee has been caused. Or it can mean you have come because you want to make me your pure devotee by your appearance before me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The thing, it's like King Baulasva is paraphrasing a verse we find in the 11th canto, that we go to the 11th canto. Chapter 14, verse 15. My Uddhav, neither Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Sankirtan, the gods of fortune, nor indeed myself is as dear to me as you are. So, this is the purport. Can someone read this purport of 11, 14, 15?
The Lord has described in the previous verse the unalloyed love of his pure devotee for him. And now the Lord describes his devotee's Atma, Yani means Lord Brahma, who is born directly from the Lord's body. Lord Shiva always gives great pleasure to Lord constant meditation upon him as Shankarsena, and Lord Balaram is the Lord's brother in Krishna Leela. The goddess of fortune is the Lord's devotee Uddhava, and a king Jana, devotee of the Lord Srila Madhvacharya cites from Vedic literature explain that the gentleman somehow his own interests and that of his children to give charity to poor beggar. Similarly, the Lord gives preference to helpless devotees helpless devotees completely on His mercy. The only way to obtain the Lord mercy is through His causeless love, and the Lord is most loving, inclined devotee who are most dependent on Him. Just as ordinary mother and father worry more about their helpless children than about the self-sufficient, thus even if one lacks any material qualification, one should simply depend upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, other interests, and surely one will achieve the highest perfection of life.
Thank you. So if we surrender to Krishna, then Krishna will give us his mercy. Text 33. What person who knows this truth would ever abandon your lotus feet when you are ready to give your very self to peaceful sages who call nothing their own? So Srila Prabhupada in Krishna book says, your devotees are dearer to you than your first son, Lord Brahma. And I'm sure that you have so kindly visited my place in order to prove your divine statement. We see how these devotees are favored just by keeping at their calls. Srila Prabhupada continues, I cannot imagine how people can be godless and demoniac even after knowing of your causeless mercy and affection for your devotees, who are constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness. How can they forget your lotus feet? So, my dear Lord, it is known to us that you are so kind and liberal that when a person leaves everything just to engage in Krishna consciousness, you sometimes give yourself in exchange for that unalloyed love. Text 34. Appearing in the Yadu dynasty, you spread your glories, which can remove all the sins of the three worlds just to deliver those entrapped in the cycle of birth and death. Obeisance to you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, whose intelligence is ever unrestricted, obeises to the sage Naranarayan, who always undergoes austerities in perfect peace. So there is a reason why he mentions Naranarayan. We will find that out here in the purport. Can someone read the purport?
Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti comments that the king offered these prayers to encourage Lord Krishna to remain in his home for some days. The king thought, since contact with the Supreme Lord can free anyone from misconception and doubt, Krishna's presence in my home will fortify my intelligence so that I can withstand the onslaught of material desires. In his expansion as Naranarayan Rishi, the Lord always resides in Badikasrama for the good of the whole land of Bharat, and so he may also create good fortune for the land of Mathila by remaining here for at least a few days. Since Lord Krishna's propensity is towards peace and simplicity, he will certainly prefer my simple home to the exclusive opulence of Dwaraka.
Yeah, excessive opulence. So it thinks that Krishna needs a break from Dwarka. Therefore, he is asking him to stay for some time here in Mithila, get a break. That 36. Please stay a few days in our house, along with these Brahmins, all-pervading one. With the dust of your feet sanctify this dynasty of Nimi. Sukadev Goswami continued, Thus invited by the king, the Supreme Lord, Sustainer of the world, consented to stay for some time to bestow good fortune on the men and women of Mithila. So now we go to Shutadev. Shutadev received Lord Asyuta into his home with as much enthusiasm as that shown by King Baulasva. After bowing down to the Lord and the sages, Shutadev began to dance with great joy. He started to dance. So this verse is quoted in Nectar of Devotion also, of how Shutadev became so overpowered with joy. After bowing down before the Lord's lotus feet, he stood up and began to dance, raising his two arms above his head. He could not stop his ecstasy. The king, of course, he was stunned in ecstasy and forgot, and he forgot to bow down. That 39. After bringing mats of grass and darbar straw and seating his guests upon them, he greeted them with words of welcome. Then he and his wife washed their feet with great pleasure. To provide even this simple welcome, Shutadev had go to the next house, next door, to his neighbors and borrows extra mats. This insight is provided by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti. 40. With the washwater, the virtuous Shutadev copiously sprinkled himself, his house and his family. Overjoyed, he felt that all his desires had now been fulfilled. So, copiously means so much water, not a few drops. He was in a very ecstatic mood. 41. He worshipped them with offerings of auspicious items easily available to him, such as fruits, ushira root, pure nectarian water, fragrant clay, tulsi leaves, kusha grass, and lotus flowers. Then he offered them food that increases the mode of goodness. So very simple brahminical food he was offering. He wondered, how is it that I, fallen into the blind well of family life, have been able to meet Lord Krishna? And how have I also been allowed to meet these great Brahmins, who always carry the Lord within their hearts? Indeed, the dust of their feet is the shelter of all holy places. When his guests were seated comfortably, having each received the proper welcome, Shutadev approached them and sat down nearby with his wife, children, and other dependents. Then, while massaging the Lord's feet, he addressed Krishna and the sages. Shutadev said, "It is not that we have attained the audience of the Supreme Lord only today, for we have in fact been associating with him ever since he created this universe with his energies and then entered in this transcendental form." So he's seeing Krishna in everything. Now, can someone read the purport of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur?
O best of the Brahmanas, Srutadeva, how is that I have the good fortune of meeting you today? When the Lord says this, Srutadeva replies with clever use of words. O Supreme Lord, not only today did you get to see us. When you create the universe and enter it with your own presence, starting from that time up until today, we, you, Tatastha Sakti, enjoying the fruits of our karma, have been observed by you. But only today do we see you. This is an example of Uttara alankara, where a statement interferes the question.
Infers the question, yes. That so the point is, yes, Shutradev said, I came to this world and I went through birth after birth, and you were always with me, observing that I was eating the fruits. You have always been with me, but now today, after so many births, I see you personally before me. So I'm so joyful that so this verse, yeah. Yes, the Lord is like a sleeping person who creates a separate world in his imagination and then enters into his own dream and sees himself within it. So, in some sense, that is a summary of the whole creation. The purport. In the illusion of his dream, a sleeping person creates an apparent world completely with cities populated by the fictional products of his imagination. Somewhat the same way the Lord manifests the cosmos. Of course, the creation is not illusory for the Lord, but it is for those souls who are put under control of his Maya potency. As their service to the Lord, Maya deludes the conditioned souls into accepting as real or temporary, insubstantial manifestation. So our dream is that we are the enjoyer and the owner. That's our dream. Can someone read the purport of Vishwanatha Bhakti Thakur, please?
O Lord, you created the universe just by your mind enter into it. I am an example of Jivas mentioned above. You should therefore see me. He speaks again using clever words. The meaning is as follows. Just as a sleeping person by his mind, immersed in its ignorance, Atma Mayaya, creates villages and cities, enters into them, and experiences seeing and sensing them. So, you also, starting from the beginning of your creation, through your mind, up till today, have been seeing me. I, however, starting from the creation till today, have not seen even a trace of you. But now, today, by your mercy, I have seen you.
Yes, so all these lifetimes you have been observing me and seeing me, but I did not see you. Now today I am seeing you. 46. You reveal yourself within the hearts of those persons of pure consciousness who constantly hear about you, chant about you, worship you, glorify and converse with one another. Can someone read this Srila Vishwanath Bhakti Thakur presents Krishna's reply to that. So please, if someone can read it.
But persons like you who are engaged in hearing and singing about me certainly attain my presence. Sutadev answered in this verse, you appear within those persons who discuss among the devotees about the Samavadata, but they are always devoid of all contamination such as envy, amla, atmana. But I am full of contamination. That you have appeared in a person here is a show of your wonderful quality of mercy.
Yeah, that's Shrutadev's comments, text 47. But although you reside within the heart, you are very far away from those whose minds are disturbed by their entanglement in material work. Indeed, no one can grasp you by his material powers, for you reveal yourself only in the hearts of those who have learned to appreciate your transcendental qualities. Yeah, can someone read the purport, please?
The all-merciful
Merciful
Lord.
Lord is in everyone's heart. Seeing him here, however, is possible only when one's heart is completely purified. Materialists may demand that God prove his existence by coming into view as a result of their empirical investigations. But God has no need to respond to such impudence. As Lord Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita 7:25, Naham prakasa sarvasya yugamaya samavita mudo yam nabijati lopo mam ajamanya. I am never manifest to be foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my eternal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible.
So in Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada writes, when the conditioned soul comes in contact with a pure devotee and takes to devotional service, beginning from the process of hearing your transcendental pastimes, glorifying your transcendental activities, worshipping your eternal form in the temple, offering prayers to you, and engaging in discussion to understand your transcendental position, he gradually becomes free from the contamination of material existence. And as his heart becomes cleansed of all material dust, you gradually become invisible. There, although you are constantly with the conditioned soul, only when he becomes purified by devotional service do you become revealed to him. So we can also have that experience of Shrutadev if we become purified by devotional service. Others who are bewildered by fruitive activities, either by Vedic injunction or by customary dealings, and who do not take to devotional service, are captivated by the external happiness of the bodily concept of life. You are not revealed to such persons, rather you remain far, far away from them. But for one who engages in devotional service and purifies his heart by constant chanting of your holy name, you are very easily understood as his eternal, constant companion. So Srila Prabhupada says that one thing, all you have to do is chanting the holy name, then Krishna will reveal himself to us. Nectar of devotion, Atashi Krishna Nama Adi, Nabhavat Grayam Indriyai, Shiva Mukhe Shivatir, Svame Pas Pratyada. Because Krishna's form, quality, pastimes, etc. are all on the absolute platform, material senses cannot appreciate them. When a conditioned soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness and renders service by using his tongue to chant the Lord's holy name and taste the remnants of the Lord's food, the tongue is purified. And one gradually comes to understand who Krishna is. Can someone read the purport of Vishvanachika Bhakti, please?
Moreover, you display other wonderful qualities, though you reside in the heart of both the non-devotee and the devotees. You are not visible to the non-devotees and are visible to the devotees. How is it possible for me to be in their hearts and to be far away from them? You are not visible because of the action of ignorance, Atma Sakti, with its covering pride and envy. Those separate from those people are the Vita. You are the heart, Ananti, of those who are in their hearts. Think of you, of your qualities. You are perceived by them.
So pride and envy is covering Krishna from our vision. Pride and envy. It's 48. Let me offer my obeisance unto you. You are realized as a supreme soul by those who know the absolute truth, whereas in your form of time you impose death upon the forgetful souls. You appear both in your causeless spiritual form and in the created form of this universe, thus simultaneously uncovering the eyes of your devotees and obstructing the vision of the non-devotees. So devotees realize the Lord in a spiritual form. Non-devotees realize him of death. Yeah, that's the purport. Can someone read the purport, please?
When the Lord appears before his devotees in his eternal spiritual form, their eyes become uncovered, in the sense that all vestiges of illusion are dispelled, and they drink in the beautiful vision of the Absolute Truth, the personality of Godhead. For the non-devotees, on the other hand, the Lord appears as material nature, his universal form, and in this way he covers their vision, so that his spiritual personal form remains invisible to them. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti gives another interpretation of this verse based on an alternative understanding of Anatmane, a form of wood, Anatma. Various classes of men know the absolute truth in different ways. The devotees of the Lord who are reciprocal mood of mutual admiration, Sankaras, meditate on Supreme as possessing as a divine personal form, Atma or Sri Vigraha, transcending all aspects of material illusion. The impersonal philosophers Gyanis conceive him as formless, Anatma, and the envious demons see him in the form of death.
As death, yeah. Non-devotees realize him as death. Devotees realize him in a spiritual form. So if we look outside, then we see the universal form which is covering us, so that we cannot see Krishna. So three categories are described here. The devotees, they can see his personal form. Impersonalists, they see the formless, and the envious demon, they see as death. So different visions of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada comments on this in Krishna book. So we have to go back to Krishna book. Contents up.
Oh,
The kidnapping of Subhabra. So it's near the end. Here, it is it. Can someone read this paragraph, which is highlighted?
It is said that your Lordship, sitting in the heart of a devotee, gives him direction by which he can very quickly come back home, back to you. The direct dictation of you reveals your existence within the heart of the devotee. Only a devotee can immediately appreciate your existence within his heart. Whereas if for a person who has only bodily concept of life and is engaged in sense gratification, you always remain covered by the curtain of Yogamaya. Such a person cannot realize you are very near, sitting within his heart. For a non-devotee, you are appreciated only as the ultimate death. The difference is like the difference between a cat carrying its kitten in its mouth and carrying a rat in its mouth. In the mouth of the cat, the rat feels its death, whereas the kitten in the mouth of the cat feels motherly affection. Similarly, you're present to everyone, but the non-devotee feels you as ultimate cruel death, whereas a devotee, you are the supreme instructor and philosopher. The atheist, therefore, understands the presence of God as death, but the devotee understands the presence of God always within his heart, takes dictation from you, and lives transcendentally, unaffected by the contamination of the material world.
So a reporter asked Srila Prabhupada, how do you know who to put in charge of a project? How do you know? Srila Prabhupada replies, Krishna tells me. Rameshwar Prabhu said, actually the Lord in the heart is in the heart and gives the intelligence, but Srila Prabhupada interrupted and said, no, Krishna tells me. So the reporter said, okay, I understand. The Srila Prabhupada gives him, in Krishna book, the analogy of the rat and the kitten and the cat. The kitten feels motherly affection, but the rat feels the presence of death. So, text 49. O my Lord, you are that supreme Lord, that supreme soul, and we are your servants. How shall we serve you, my Lord? Simply seeing you puts an end to all troubles of human life. So Shukadev Goswami said, after hearing Shukadev speak these words, the Supreme Personality of Godhead relieves his surrendered devotee's distress, took Shukadev in his own hand, smiling. She took Shukadev's hand in his own and smiling spoke to him as follows. Acharya Vishwanath comments that Lord Krishna took Shukadev's hand and smiled as a gesture to tell him, yes, you know the truth about me, and I also know the truth about you. So now I will tell you something special. That 50. Something special. Shukadev Goswami said, yeah, this 51 now. The Supreme Lord said, my dear Brahman, you should know that these great sages have come here just to bless you. They travel throughout the worlds with me, purifying them with the dust of their feet. Srila Sridhar Swami explains that Lord Krishna thought Shukadev had shown too much reference to him and not enough to the sages. Thus he turned the Brahman's attention to them. So, can someone read the part of Vishwanath Chakravarti 51?
I heard you praise me, but not the Brahmanas accompanying me. Being the worshipper of the Brahmanas, I will praise the Brahmanas myself to teach devotion to Brahmanas, but you should praise me. Why I should praise the Brahmanas? This is Krishna's intention. Addressing Sutadev as a Brahmana, he indicated that Sutadev being of the same caste as the sages does not have to give as much respect as he does.
One can gradually become purified by seeing, touching, worshipping temple deities, places of pilgrimage and holy rivers. But one can attain the same results immediately simply by perceiving the glance of exalted sages. So can someone read this purport? You can skip the Sanskrit.
Rather
Rather
than
than
remaining
remaining in seclusion and concentrating on their own perfection, Vaishnava Brahmanas of the highest order dedicate their lives to sharing the benediction of the Lord's devotional service. In the words of the sons of King Prachinabhari, dear Lords, wander all over the world to purify even the holy places of religion. Is not such activity pleasing to those who are actually afraid of material existence? And Prahlad Maharaj says, Yena deva munaya swavimuti kama mona charanti vijanena prasanisa naitam vihaya kripana vimamokshayeko nayam twadasya saranam brahmato anupasye. My dear Lord Nrsimhadev, I see that there are many saintly persons indeed, but they are interested only in their own deliverance, not caring for the big cities and towns. They go to the Himalayas or the forest to meditate with vows of silence, monovrata. They are not interested in delivering others. As for me, however, I do not wish to be liberated alone, leaving aside all these poor fools and rats. I know that without Krishna, consciousness, without taking shelter of the lotus feet, one cannot be happy. Therefore, I wish to bring them back to shelter at your lotus feet.
Text 53,
719.
54. By his very birth, a Brahmin is the best of all living beings in this world, and he becomes even more exalted when he is endowed with austerity, learning, and self-satisfaction. What to speak of devotion unto me? Even my own four-armed form is no dear to me than a Brahmin. Within himself, a learned Brahmin comprises all the Vedas, just as within myself I comprises all the demigods. So the Brahman is the Vedas personified. That it is understood from the Vedic science of epistemology. The Nyaya Shastra, the knowledge of an object, prameya, depends on a valid means of knowing pramana. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can be known only by the Vedas, and thus he realizes.
We do feel. With this mouth, we do feel. You drank feel with feeding bottle. And you're making feel. With
Is
this mouth,
someone
you make it
speaking?
mad. Okay, you can go first. After class, you come back. Okay.
Okay, it's silent again. So, it is understood from the Vedic science of epistemology, the Nyaya Shastra, the knowledge of an object, prameya, depends on a valid means of knowing, praman. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can be known only by the Vedas, and thus he relies on the Brahmin sages, who are the Vedas personified to reveal in this world. Even though Lord Krishna embodied all the demigods and Vishnu Tattva expansion of Narayan, he considers himself to be obliged to the Brahmins. So the Brahmins is the Vedas personified. Text 55. Ignorant of this truth, people neglect and enviously offend the learned Brahman, who, being non-different from me, is their spiritual master and very self. They consider worshipable only such obvious manifestation of divinity as my deity form. So this is the Prakrita or Kanishta who is described here. That he does not know who is advanced and makes offenses. 56. Because he realized me, a Brahman is firmly fixed in the knowledge that everything moving and non-moving in the universe, and also the primary elements of his creation, are all manifested forms expanded from me. So in Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada expands on this idea that that's and yeah, can someone read this paragraph, please?
Moreover, the very purifying potency of pilgrimages or worship of different demigods is also achieved by the grace of saintly persons. A pilgrimage site becomes a holy place because of the presence of the saintly persons. My dear Shritadev, when a person is born as a Brahman, he immediately becomes the best of all human beings. And if such a Brahmana, remaining self-satisfied, practices austerity, studies the Vedas, and engages in my devotional service, as is the duty of the Brahmana, or in other words, if a Brahmana becomes a Vaishnava, how wonderful is his greatness? My feature of 400 Narayan is not so pleasing to or dear to me as is a Brahmana Vaishnava. Brahmana means one well conversant with Vedic knowledge. A Brahmana is the insignia of perfect knowledge, and I am the full-fledged manifestation of all gods. Less intelligent men do not understand me, nor do they understand the influence of the Brahmana Vaishnava. They are influenced by the three modes of material nature, and thus dare to criticize me and my pure devotees. A Brahmana Vaishnava or a devotee already on the Brahmanica platform can realize me within his heart, and therefore he definitely concludes that the whole cosmic manifestation and its different features are effects of different energies of the Lord. Thus, he has a clear conception of the whole material nature and the total material energy. And in every action, such a devotee sees me only and nothing else.
Interesting, Srila Prabhupada uses the name Brahmana Vaishnava. So he makes a distinction. A Vaishnava develops the qualities of a Brahman and becomes then automatically a Brahman when he makes spiritual advancement. Srila Bhaktivedanta Sarasvati started to give Brahman initiation to non-Brahmins, to those who were not born in Brahmin families. And that upset very much the Smarta Brahmins, and we know the story. Go back to reading the last verses now. Text 57. Therefore you should worship these Brahman sages, O Brahman, with the same faith you have in me. If you do so, you will worship me directly, which you cannot do otherwise, even with offerings of vast riches. Sri Sukadev said, so instructed by the Lord with single-minded devotion, Sukadev worshipped Sri Krishna and the topmost Brahmins accompanying him, and King Baulasva did the same. Thus both Shukadev and the king attained the ultimate transcendental destination. Then 59. O king, thus the personality of Godhead who is devoted to his own devotees stayed for some time with his two great devotees, Shukadev and Baulasva, teaching them the behavior of perfect saints. Then he returned to Dvarka. So to finish, can someone read the purport of 59, please?
In his narration of the past times in Krishna, the Supreme Person of Godhead, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami concludes, the instruction we receive from this ancient incident is that King Bhalusvasa and Srikadev, the Brahmana were accepted by the Lord on the same level because both were pure devotees. This is the real quantification for being recognized by the Supreme Person of Godhead, because it has become the fashion of this age to become falsely proud of having taken both birth in the family of Kshatriya or a Brahmana. We see persons without any qualification claiming to be Brahmana or Kshatriya or Vaisya. But as it is stated in the scriptures, Kalos me Subhabra. In this age of Kali, everyone is born a Sudra. This is because there is no performance of the purificatory process known as samskara, which begins from the time of the mother's pregnancy and continue up to the point of the individual's death. No one can be classified as a member of a particular caste, especially of a higher caste, Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaisya, simply by birth. If one is not purified by the process of the seed-giving ceremony or Gabadanas Samskara, is immediately classified among the Sudras, because only the Sudra do not undergo this purificatory process. Sex life without the purificatory process of Krishna consciousness is merely the seed-giving process of the Sudra or the animal. By Krishna consciousness, but Krishna consciousness is the highest process of the Sudra perfection of the highest perfection by which everyone can come to the platform of Vaisnava. This perfection by which everyone can become Vaisnava. Scroll. This scroll, okay. Perfect Vaisnava. Perfect Vaisnava. Mother pregnancy continues up to the point of individual death. Process of Krishna consciousness merely seed-giving, Sudra, Brahmana, Vaisnava, illicit sex, indulgence of intoxicants, gambling, eating animal foodstuff. No one can be on the Brahmanical platform without having this preliminary qualification. And without becoming a qualified Brahmana, no one can become a pure devotee.
So the qualification is being a pure devotee. So that was a kidnapping of Subhabra, the story of Krishna meeting Baulasva, King Baulasva and Shrutadev the Brahman, and importance of the Brahmans. Any questions, comments, please? Yes, Pavitra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for your wonderful teaching. You make the subject matter look more interesting by your comments. Maharaj, Krishna always give preference to the Brahmanas, but the Vaishyas produce food, and the Vaishyas take care of the cows, and from the cows we do sacrifice to please Krishna. Why Krishna always give preference to the Brahmanas and not Vaishyas also?
Yeah, because the Brahmins are the head of society and they give good instructions how to act. Without their instructions, the other classes will not know what to do. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada wanted first to establish the head of society and wanted us all to become Brahmins, to come to the Brahminical platform of goodness and preach that because if there is no head, then the rest will be useless. That's why the Brahmins are important. Another point why they are important is that they represent the Vedas, and the Vedas, the essence of the Vedas is Krishna. So they are the spiritual masters of society who instructs others about Krishna consciousness. And that's another reason that, and a third reason we heard, the pure Brahmins, they see Krishna's form, they can see him everywhere. Therefore they are not covered by illusion, they are in contact with Krishna. Does that help, Pavitra?
Yes, Maharaj, why I asked this question is Bhaktivedanta Swami established community in Africa, and he wanted us to do farming community. But because now everybody wants to study Bhakti Bible, Bhaktivedanta, we neglect going to farm. Everybody wants to become a Brahmana, everybody wants to study. So the projects are all falling. So that's why I asked this question.
Yeah, that's an important question. We see that Srila Prabhupada, as time went on, gave more importance to Varnashram. Varnashram is based on guna and karma. Guna is inclination, but karma is the capacity to do. And we see also in our society that not everyone can raise himself to the Brahminical platform because of they don't have the inclination. They are more people of practical work and not of philosophy. And therefore, their way to purify themselves is karma yoga, engaging in varnashram activities according to their guna and their karma, guna karma. Therefore it's important, because we see devotees, we can study, but we need also to be practical. We need a society where we can maintain ourselves in the association of devotees. And I see also Bhaktivedanta Maharaj wanted that, but it's not the only one. Bhaktivedanta Maharaj in Ujjain, he wanted devotees to live there. He started to develop activities, or inspired them to develop activities, which was not always successful. Some were successful, but it's not easy, it's a challenge. But yes, as time goes on, people will have more difficulty in Kali Yuga to take straight the path of Krishna consciousness. And then we can also help them to make spiritual advancement by developing this varnashram. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada said to my Guru Maharaj, yes, I've done 50% of my work. The other 50% is varnashram. So in that way, it's important. But of course, we may go into varnashram and forget Prabhupada's primary instructions to first establish the head of society. So both are going together. We should not forget that. Otherwise also the varnashram will not work if we don't have the head. Does that help, Pavitra?
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. So, anything else, please?
Very wonderful explanation, Maharaj. Thank you.
Yes, I try my best. So I was happy to be with you for this chapters 80 till 86. We finished my section today. That I hope that I will be able to travel to India on this Tuesday. My godbrothers in Ujjain have asked me to come after the departure of Bhakti Maharaj. I couldn't come because of the corona, the COVID now. This is my first opportunity, but let's see what Krishna wants. Traveling is really a challenge. The world is not getting better. There is a war in Europe for the moment, and yeah, Krishna willing, I'm in Vrindavan in a few days. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Jai Prabhupada.
Recording stopped.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.